Hey, it's John, True Vintage Guitar. This is from 1961. It's a Fender VI, also called a Bass VI. And I actually had a different guitar I was going to do this week. It was from 1965. It was a Gibson SG Standard, wide neck, nickel parts. I was really stoked to make a video about it, but it sold in like 20 minutes, so I was not able to do a video on that one. I did blast it out on Instagram, so if you want to see those guitars as they're coming in, hit me up on Instagram. It's at True Vintage Guitar, and if you do, leave your Instagram name in a comment below, and I will follow you as well. But I had been meaning to make a video about this guitar for a while, so I'm glad I'm finally getting around to it. It's a super rare, very cool guitar that is not technically a baritone guitar, at least in my opinion, but more on that later. So Fender's VI model starts showing up in late 1961. It was introduced just after the jazz bass in 1960. Also features this, what's now called kind of a transitional logo, but started being used in 1960 on the jazz bass. And Leo Fender did not invent the electric six-string bass like this, or even the solid body electric bass with frets, but he did help to majorly popularize both of those instruments. Although Dan Electro predated the Fender VI with a six-string electric bass guitar back in 1956, and then Gibson had the EB6 in 1959 or 1960. It looks like they shipped it about in 1960. So yeah, Fender was not the first to the market with a six-string bass guitar like this, but theirs was arguably the most popular of the big three there, Dan Electro, Gibson, and Fender. Certainly not widely accepted, but definitely probably sold better than the Gibson, less than 100 examples, and I'm not sure on the Dan Electro, but do believe that the Fender VI likely outsold the Dan Electro throughout the years. So production began on the VI in late 1961. They probably started shipping in early 1962. But the earliest examples of the VI that I can find have the pencil neck date of October 1961. Just like this guitar, 1061 date on the neck and the body cavities. So this is a very early example, probably one of the first runs of the Fender VI, which makes it pretty significant to me. It has a couple of pretty cool early features, including a clipped logo on the headstock. You can see that it does not have the model name on the headstock, it just says Fender. We call this a clipped logo because they were likely reusing headstock logos from other models and just cut off the model name. So it was probably a jazz bass. It was probably meant to go on a jazz bass, and they just clipped off the term jazz bass. So probably what happened is they did not have the stickers ready for the Fender VI by the time this was being produced. So the very earliest examples just have Fender on the headstock, and they don't have the model name. I had 3 custom color black Fender Jaguar guitars from the mid-1960s. So this had matching headstocks, and they also had clipped logos because the model name Jaguar was written in black ink, so you wouldn't have been able to see the model name against the headstock. It just kind of would have looked like a smudge. So those guitars also had clipped logos. So there's 2 main versions of the Fender VI. The specifications did kind of change, but the first version is this guitar. It has Stratocaster style pickups, 3 Stratocaster style pickups, and 3 on-off switches. It does not have the strangle switch. So version 1, just like this, Strat style pickups, 3 switches, and the slab rosewood fretboard. Version 2 had Jaguar style pickups, so it had the shielding claw around the pickup, and they also added a strangle switch similar to a Jaguar guitar. It was kind of Jaguar inspired, at least at the second version. So that second version was introduced in 1962. So the version 1 of the Fender VI is actually a pretty rare model. Other cool, rare early features include the thick slab rosewood fretboard, the clay dot fretboard markers, the pencil neck date and cavity dates, the very thin finish with no clear coat over it, and of course the clipped logo. So the very thin finish does seem to happen in the early 1960s. A lot of times you'll see the custom color guitars that did not get a clear coat will remain very bright color. So if you see a Olympic white custom color, Stratocaster or jazz bass from the early 1960s, and it looks really, really bright white, pure white with no kind of yellowing, that's one that didn't receive a clear coat. This one is very similar to that. It's a super thin sunburst finish and does not appear to have received a clear coat over the sunburst finish. So you can see that the checking is kind of an interesting pattern. It's almost like a pixelated look to the wear. Very cool look. Undeniably vintage Fender right when you see it, and just a really great looking guitar. So I acquired this guitar from the second owner. He said that he traded his 1957 Fender Stratocaster guitar for the VI way back in 1962. So I asked him, of course, where is the Stratocaster? He said it was with a missionary to South America. So you guys down there in South America, why don't you go look for that guitar? He said it was black. So that would be quite a special Fender Stratocaster if you find it. But he said he did not have contact with the guy he traded with. So yeah, he owned this Fender VI for 57 years and finally decided to sell, so I was able to buy it off of him. Very proud to have it. This is my second Fender VI and probably the cooler of the two because of its early features and the fact that it's first run and that kind of stuff. So here comes my book recommendation if you're into vintage Fender guitars. It's Fender the Golden Age, 1946 to 1970, and I love the way that they broke off the date there in 1970 and not in 1965, right when right when CBS acquired Fender. I think 1970 is a better cutoff date for the Golden Age as well, even though I love the early 70s Fenders. Those are cool too. But if you like Fender guitars, I highly recommend this book. It breaks down Fender history into the different models of guitars, basses, and amplifiers that came out and kind of goes through the model. I've got one bone to pick with this book, and that's with the Fender VI description, because it describes this guitar as a baritone guitar. And I've got to say, I have to disagree with that. A baritone guitar is a totally different thing. This is a 6-string electric bass guitar. So a baritone guitar is tuned a fourth or a fifth below a standard guitar. So if you fretted a G chord on a baritone guitar, it's not going to be a G. Depends on what you're tuned to. But they use lighter strings than a bass guitar and heavier strings than a standard Spanish style guitar. So a standard string gauge on a baritone guitar is going to be about 13 to 62, something like that. And the string gauge that I'm playing on this 6-string electric bass guitar is, I'll have to check on it, 26 to 99. So that's far, far heavier than a baritone style guitar. Because this is an electric bass guitar. It's tuned a full octave below the standard guitar. So it's just like a typical 4-string bass, tuned just like that, except it has 2 strings added. That's the B and the E. So it's a 6-string electric bass guitar. It's not technically a baritone guitar. It's semantics, sure, but that's my opinion. If you differ, if your opinion differs from that, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I do love pretty much everything they've written in this book, except for that part. So if I'm wrong, I'd love to hear from you. But I think you should pick up this book. It is awesome if you love Fender history and want to read more and be more knowledgeable and passionate about Fender guitars. I think you're going to like it. Pick one up. There's a link in the description below. You're really going to dig that. So this is a 1961 Fender VI, also called the Bass VI. It's a 6-string electric bass guitar. It is not technically a baritone guitar, at least in my opinion. I'm going to have my buddy come over and play it since he is an actual bass player, and I am not. And his name is Alex Townley. He plays in a local band called Juco. I'll link to their stuff down in the description. He's going to be playing it through my 1970 Fender Bassman amplifier, and we're going to be running through my pedal board just to have a little bit of reverb on it, since the Bassman does not have reverb, and then I might play it a little bit at the end as well. But anyway, here's Alex. Thank you, Alex. Can't wait to hear this thing make some music. Well, that was awesome. I love getting to share this guitar on video and letting everybody hear how it sounds. Such a unique and strange instrument with being an electric bass guitar with a tremolo tailpiece and 3 Stratocaster style pickups. But anyway, I love playing this guitar. It's so fun. I really enjoy sharing vintage guitars through video on YouTube. So if you like vintage guitars, I would love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. It will help me keep making these videos so I can share vintage guitars and knowledge and passion. And I know I'm not the only one that is excited about this stuff, so I'd love to hear from you as well. If I missed something in this video, leave me a comment. Let me know what I missed. If you disagree with it being a baritone guitar, I'd love to hear that as well. Yeah, follow me on Instagram as well. If you're out there on Instagram, I do, guitar safaris and stuff, live updated on these stories, so that's always a good time. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Really helps me, just share guitars with everybody, and I'm having a blast doing it. So thank you so much. Leave me your Instagram handle down in the comments below, and stick around and watch another video. Thank you.